I'm Emman. I like plants.
Hey, I'm Bret. I like insects.
And here's Ruby. She likes soil. We are former students of the BSES program of Ateneo de Manila University. Here's a photo of us with our research mentors. Come, let's talk about our undergraduate thesis.
Have you ever wondered what you call the area between the freshwaters and terrestrial ecosystem? They are called riparian corridors, also known as river regulators. Formally, they are defined as transitional semi-terrestrial areas regularly influenced by freshwater, usually extending from the edges of the water bodies to the edges of the upland communities. To help you visualize it, here's a graphic. The health status of riparian corridors is measured through assessing its components, namely fauna, flora, and soil components. Fauna are often used as bioindicators, particularly the insects. Flora or plants act as soil stabilizer, preventing erosion. Lastly, soil functions as substrate and habitat for plants and insects. As you can see, all of these three components are interconnected with one another. In the Philippines, there is an abundance of rivers. Some are even interconnected to form critical watersheds. The closest one to Metro Manila is the Upper Marikina River Basin Protected Landscape. When you think of a protected landscape, you would expect a lot of studies and information about such a landscape. And yet, literature showed that there is actually a lack of assessments and monitoring studies in the riparian corridors of UMRB despite its protected landscape status. This is alarming, given that the area is threatened by human activities such as migration, agriculture, and as we have seen during our study, massive construction of water-related development infrastructure. It's quite puzzling that there are constructions happening and proceeding in the riparian corridors of UMRB despite the lack of baseline studies in the area.
For this reason, we conducted the integrated floral, faunal, and soil assessments of the riparian corridors in a protected landscape. Here's what we found out. In terms of flora, there were 59 species from 22 floral families recorded, a huge bulk of which belong to the grass family or Poaceae. Some of the more notable findings also include the dominance of invasive species like Alternanthera sessilis and Chromalina odorata. But that's not all. Good indicators for flora were found, which includes the presence of two true riparian plants like Rotula aquatica and Homonoia riparia.
For the fauna, we found 12 insect orders. Among the dominant orders, we notice the abundance of two orders of interest, the Diptera and Aranea. Diptera are your common mosquitoes and flies, whereas Aranea are your spiders. The abundance of these orders are often cited by some studies as indicator of disturbed environments. But hey, don't worry, there's still a silver lining. The abundance of Coleoptera in some sites is noticeable. The presence of Coleoptera or beetles is an indicator of good habitat quality according to some studies.
But where does the soil figure in? Among the most notable trends that we observed is the relationship between excess soil nutrients, meaning to say high levels of nutrients, and the proliferation of invasive species. In areas where there is elevated amounts of nutrients, we noted the proliferation also of invasive species. We infer that this could be explained by the resource availability hypothesis, which says that plant invasion is facilitated by high resource availability. These are only some of the many interesting findings that we see in riparian ecosystems of the UMRBPL. Truly, this area holds valuable information on the landscape. So as a recap, riparian corridors are influenced by both adjacent terrestrial and aquatic ecosystems. And if we are to take landscapes as mosaics of interrelated ecosystems, then the status of riparian areas should not be discounted in the management of a protected landscape. While it is true that the ecotone showed signs of disturbance, the community diversities are still stable and good indicators are still present. Hence, this is not a lost cause. Increasing development pressures like that of the building of a dam further threatens this already disturbed landscape. If we are serious with the protection of this landscape, the goal should be to improve the conditions, not to further destroy it. Moving forward, ecological restoration of riparian areas should be explored for this protected landscape.